Live from WJZ, this is breaking news.
It's a busy night with weather and some breaking news as we come on the air here at 7 o'clock. Tornado activity has been popping up all across our area tonight. And you're taking a look at the moments of what looked like a brief tornado formed out in Boonesboro, Maryland. That's in Washington County.
The warning for Western Maryland expired just before the 6 o'clock hour, and we're also just coming off of another warning that impacted Baltimore and Carroll counties. Our First Alert weather team has been tracking severe weather all night as we take a live look at First Alert Doppler radar.
And you can see it is still a very active scene right now at this hour.
First Alert Doppler radar.
And you can see it is still a very active scene right now at this hour. A flood watch warning remains in effect tonight. And again, welcome to the news at 7, everyone. I'm Rick Ritter.
And I'm Nikki Zizaza. Now, even though the tornado warning has expired, if you're heading out tonight, be sure to give yourself extra time on the roads.
Yeah, have to be careful. Let's toss it over to First Alert Chief Meteorologist Derek Beasley. He has been all over these systems and has the latest on what's popping up at this hour. Derek.
Hey guys, yeah, well, it seems like the floodgates started to open here as of the 6:45, 7 o'clock time frame, and we continue to watch these storms. They're making their way across the region. Go ahead and get my mic situation here. We have tornado warnings right now all over the place. So let me go first into west central Harford County as well as northeastern Baltimore County. So this is a storm that we've been watching for a while, and I mentioned this earlier if you were watching during what normally we would broadcast CBS Evening News, but we were watching this circulation that was just south of the Towson area. They have now issued a tornado warning on it, and these storms have been, as you just saw from that video, they've been producing brief tornadoes, which is the reason why we are on the air with this particular tornado warning here, kind of giving you an idea of what to expect. So again, the area of rotation with this particular storm is around Towson. So that's the first circulation that we're watching right now. And that particular cell right now looks like it is affecting the north sides of the Beltway. So if you live in those particular areas, so if you live in Towson, if you live in the Summerfield Farms vicinity, or perhaps Manor View, Sunnybrook, you need to get to your safe place right now. Interior room, lowest floor. The best place to be is below ground. So if you have a basement, that's the best place to be. But if you need to get to that interior room or hallway, that is the best mode of action for you. We've got that tornado warning, so there's that one there. We've also got another one that has been issued for parts of Frederick County. This is the storm that's going to move up towards Westminster. So I'm going to give you a heads up. If you live in northwestern Carroll County, this storm is likely going to be headed your way, and you will likely see a tornado warning out at some point because these storms are not weakening as they push eastward. Here's your other tornado warning. Now, this one had a confirmed tornado warning with it back into parts of Loudoun County, Virginia. This one's going to be heading due east towards Gaithersburg. It's approaching Poolsville now. This is a heads up for you in Howard County. So if you live in Howard County, you're going to be likely dealing with that storm at some point as well. So let's go back over to the Baltimore County storm so I can show you where the circulation is right now. And as I mentioned, it's near Towson. The storm overall looks messy. But what we're going to try to do is pinpoint exactly where the area of rotation is. Look how tiny it is. Those little yellow blobs there, you can see this right on 695. It's probably a little bit north of that near Glen Ellen at this point. I'm going to try to turn on velocity, see if I can see anything, and it looks like a real mess here, but what we would normally look for is reds touching greens, and I'm not seeing anything that shows a significant circulation, but if anything, it would be right in this vicinity with red showing winds blowing away from the radar site, which is down into Sterling, Virginia, and winds blowing towards the radar site, which would be green. I'm not seeing a tight couplet with this storm. That doesn't mean that it's not going to produce a tornado, but some of these storms have been producing weak circulations, have been producing tornadoes for weak circulation, so the rotation doesn't necessarily have to be strong for it to be producing tornadoes here for this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look at our National Weather Service chat. And what we can do is we have a direct line with the National Weather Service, and they can tell us exactly what they're looking at and what they're thinking. And again, basically, it's just this cluster of storms, and we've been getting these little areas of rotation on the very bottom end of them. So we're basically right where you see it north of the 695 Beltway, right on the bottom edge of that, we've getting these little areas of spin. There have been reports of funnel clouds that are around Owings Mills with some of the storms earlier. We've also seen confirmed tornadoes, as I mentioned, back to the west of the parts of Loudoun County. But there's your tornado warning right there. This one, I believe, goes until 7:30. So this goes until 7:45. So we've got this tornado warning that's in effect until 7:45. This goes for Baltimore as well as Harford County. And this is going to continue lifting northward. So heads up for you if you live in Bel Air, if you live in the Abingdon area. These storms are headed your direction. So you want to make sure that you're ready for these storms as they make their way into your region. Again, the likelihood of them producing a significant tornado is low, but they have been producing brief tornadoes. A live look outside right now from I-695 at the JFX, and you can see that we are tracking heavy rain in the area, but the area of circulation is just off to the north and east, as I mentioned, of the Towson area. So it's lifting north of Towson. You guys are okay right now. These other two tornado warnings that, again, for you folks in Carroll County, this is one that you need to watch very carefully as it shifts off towards the east. Looks like right now the rotation is south and east of Walkersville, and this is going to be pushing eastward towards northwestern Carroll County. So I'm looking at a different product here. So yeah, that's right. It's south of Woodsboro and south and east of Walkersville. The latest track with it moving northeast at 20 miles an hour. So what I'll do is I'll put a storm track on this. Let me put the radar back on. And I'll get a storm track going here for you folks in southeastern Frederick County and Carroll County. So we'll go ahead and put a storm track on that so you can see that these are the communities going to be affected and what time. So Tawnytown, you guys are okay. This storm's going to pass just off to your south. But Westminster, if this holds together, it'll be there in about 45 minutes, maybe a little bit more than that. Snydersburg by 8:07, so getting into parts of northeast Carroll County, areas that were just affected by a storm that has since moved into Pennsylvania. You got another storm coming up behind with rotation on it that could affect you. And I'll adjust the storm track on here so that we can get an updated time frame of where these storms are going to be. So again, Westminster at 7:44, the Hempstead area by 8:08. So we'll take that one off. We'll go back down to the Howard County storm, or the Montgomery County storm that could affect Howard County. So I just want to give you a heads up for anyone in western or central Howard County, particularly south of I-70. These storms are heading in your direction, so don't be surprised if you get put under a tornado warning at some point between now 8:15. They're heading in your direction. So we'll put a storm track on these. And again, this area, this cluster of storms is moving east at about 20 miles an hour. So we'll put a track on that so you can see where the entire cluster is going. And Aldie looks like by 7:30, Clarksville by 7:51. So these storms will be coming into Clarksville and perhaps Columbia, Dayton, Glenelg, Highland, Fulton, Mapleon, even maybe as far east as Jessup and Savage by 8:15. So these storms have not shown any signs of weakening, which means that if you're in these areas downstream or to the east, you need to get ready for these storms as they make their way eastward. Right now, we do not have any reports of a confirmed tornado. This warning that was in effect here for Montgomery County was a confirmed tornado-tagged tornado warning, meaning there was a tornado warning indicated by radar, or at least a tornado indicated by radar, but that has since been dropped. So there's no confirmed tornado warning on it, but this is the strongest rotation in the entire area. This is out towards Poolsville, and again, we'll take a quick look at that one just to kind of see what we're looking at here. And basically what you're looking at, these little yellow blobs, that's where the area of rotation is, and that's going to be around Poolsville. Let's go back up to Baltimore County. And again, the rotation now, if based on our shear tracker, basically shows that it should be around Towson or just east or just north and east of Towson. So right on the bottom edge of where you see that red and yellow, like right on the tail end of it. And from a meteorological standpoint, these storms are not what you would typically see with a raging tornadic supercell or one that's going to produce those big tornadoes like you see out in the plains. These remind me a lot of the storms that you typically see with a landfalling tropical system, where the storms are what we call low-topped. They're very short and very squatty in the atmosphere, not very tall, and a lot of times the rotations on them are very difficult to see. So the latest storm track on this, and I'll put a storm track on this Baltimore County storm again to show you where this one has. So if we put the rotation right alongside or just north of there, and it moves northeast towards Bel Air, So here's the latest storm track. Perry Hall Manor, 727. Falston, 742. Bel Air, 753. So if you live in Bel Air, it's going to get there before 8 o'clock. Now, I do think this will track west of Abingdon. And I'll go ahead and move that storm track up here because it looks like the banner's covering it. But there you go. Bel Air at 753, Dublin 818. So Harford County, probably by 7:45, 8 o'clock, you're going to be dealing with this storm. And it does have weak rotation, and the storms have had a history of producing rotation. Let's take a look at storm relative velocity. This basically shows the winds moving around inside the storm, and that's one of the advantages of Doppler radar is we can actually see how things are spinning around. And you can kind of see there, and I'll back this up so you can see it, just to the east and southeast, actually northeast of Parkville. So let me show you that. Right there where those colors got a little bright, you can see right here, and I'll outline it right in this vicinity. So watch where the circle is, and I'll back this up just a little bit so you can see a little bright area that crossed over 695. Looks like right now it's heading up towards Perry Hall. That was the area of rotation. It's a very brief, weak one, but it was there, and it was enough for them to issue a tornado warning on it. So we've got another confirmed tornado tag on that storm out towards the west. Looks like it's the northwest Montgomery County right now. The possibility of a confirmed tornado there near Poolsville. So that's what that same circulation out there. So again, Howard County, we're watching that one for you guys as it moves off to the east. Notice the tornado warning there has turned purple, which means that it's a confirmed tag tornado, meaning it's not just radar indicated. They've gotten some indication that either they've sighted it or it's been indicated by radar picking up debris that there's a possible tornado there. So this one right now is just a regular tornado warning. So the circulation's there, but no indications of it actually dropping anything just yet. That's not to say that it won't. So what we'll do is kind of review what you need to do in a tornado warning. So right now, if you're in the tornado warning, what you need to do is get to the lowest floor. We're talking a basement, interior room, bathroom is the best place to be. Lowest floor is really the best place. So remember this acronym. Remember duck. Get downstairs, under something, so under a sturdy workbench. Cover your head, and it's going to sound really ridiculous, but believe it or not, wearing any type of helmet or like a bicycle helmet or something like that could protect you from flying debris if that does happen to occur. So downstairs, under something, cover your head. K, keep away from windows, or duck. Those are the things you need to remember in a situation where you're under a tornado warning. Also wear shoes in case there's flying glass. You need to get around. Make sure you have shoes on so you don't cut your feet. And really, lowest floor is the best place to be, but you can see the areas in green in the house there. You want to stay away from those outside walls because you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible in case a tornado actually is occurring in your area. So going back to the Baltimore County storm, looks like it is still holding on. The rotation now, it looks like just north and east of Towson. I'll put the velocity back on so I can see. I'm going to go this back and forth and see if I can see anything. And the rotation is weak, if anything, but it is there. And again, what I'm looking at here, I look at the greens and the reds, and what I look for are really areas where they're very bright and very tightly, we call it a couplet, where they're really tight and next to each other. And I really can't see it there. Let me go back over to my other source here so I can see if I can pinpoint where this rotation is. Based on the other radar that I'm looking at that we can't pull up on air, looks like it's southwest of Perry Hall. So let's go up to the Perry Hall area. And looks like their rotation is, as of the latest scan, is just south and west. So it would be right in this area right here that I'm about to circle. So if you're in Perry Hall, make sure you take your immediate tornado precautions right now. Get to an interior room, lowest floor. Looks like the strongest area of rotation will likely pass just north of there, also north of White Marsh. But besides that, you're just getting a ton of heavy rain north of that circulation. So like Charles Manor and Pleasant Hills and up towards Bel Air, Abingdon, up I-95. That's where some of the heaviest rain's occurring right now. The rotation is going to stay west of 95 as it tracks through parts of eastern Baltimore County. It'll eventually cross over into Harford County here in the next several minutes. Let's go back out to the storm. And so let's see what we got here. Looks like we got a new tornado warning here, 7:14. So we got a confirmed tornado now near Poolsville. And this is starting to look more like a classic supercell. So when I talk about, when I say supercell, a supercell thunderstorm is basically a thunderstorm that rotates. It spins. It's taking advantage of wind shear in the atmosphere, and it spins. So whenever you hear me say supercell, I'm talking about a rotating thunderstorm. Those are the ones that usually produce tornadoes. And what I want to point your attention to is this little hook feature on the back side here. We call this a hook echo. And what happens is that the rain, because of the rotation, gets pulled around the backside of the system and it curls up like this. And the only time that would happen is if you have strong rotation. So there's strong rotation there, and I'll turn on debris tracker so I can see if, and right there, with correlation coefficient, this is our debris tracker. One thing that Doppler radar could also do is it can tell the difference between rain and other stuff flying around in the air. All that you see that is red and purple is rain. Where the blue is, that is not rain. And so it looks at that and says, that's a confirmed tornado there. So that's what they're tracking right there. Looks like south and east of Poolsville, right on, looks like 107. And that is going to be heading east. That storm is going to be heading east towards Howard County. So I want to give you a heads up. It's going to pass just south of Gaithersburg. Hopefully it dies before it even gets there, but it's going to take a little while to get to Howard County. But it is headed your way, and if it maintains its strength and there's really nothing behind it that could interfere with it, it's headed your way. I'm also watching this other storm near Clarksburg that potentially could affect areas north of that. So let's say perhaps if you live in Fulton or perhaps Highland, in Howard County, areas even farther north of that. So it's getting up towards the Triadelphia Reservoir. This is getting up around areas out towards the Lisbon area, Glenelg even. That storm is going to be affecting you if it continues on that easterly track. So we've got two supercells that we're watching here. This one here near the Clarksburg area, and this one that has a confirmed tornado on it just east of Poolsville. So let's get back over to the Baltimore County storm. And that's what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hopping around to these different storms just to kind of give you an idea of where the storms are right now, who's being affected, who's not being affected. Let me back out for a minute so I can show you that the rest of the area is fine. Don't want to forget about you guys on the eastern shore because what these storms are forming on is a warm front. The warm front is lifting northward through our area, and the storms have been spinning as they interact with that warm front. The winds are changing direction on that warm front and causing it to spin. This one in parts of, looks like Kent County, is starting to look a little suspicious here. So around Chestertown, what I will do is look at my other radar to see if I detect any rotation with this one. And let me back out of this. So there's a little bit there near Chestertown. Nothing too significant at this point, but it's just a really nasty storm at this time. But the rotation is right on the bottom edge of where you see that big red blob there. So it's a very weak circulation right around Chestertown. So right in there. So we'll keep an eye on that one in case it decides it wants to ramp up. Going back to the Baltimore County storm, right now, looks like the area of rotation continues. Looks like north of Perry Hall. So near Glenarm and Perry Hall. So it's basically in between those two areas where that area of rotation is right now. Put the velocity back on, see if I can see anything. It may be a little bit better here so you could see the couplet, and I'll outline it for you so you could see it. Glenarm, we see all the green there just below Glenarm, and also the red north of Perry Hall. That's your couplet. That's the circulation there, and it's one of the better looking ones of the evening, but you can see how the red shows the winds blowing away from the radar site, which is down in Sterling, Virginia. And then the green show winds blowing towards the radar, so coming from the northeast around Glenarm. And so it is showing that there is some rotation with that particular storm. Right now it's broad and it's there. And these storms, even with weak rotations, have been producing tornadoes this afternoon. Going back out towards the west. Again, through Frederick County, we're still watching these storms here through Carroll County. Keeping an eye on these. I'm not detecting any significant rotation near New Windsor, doesn't look like. That That storm in Montgomery County actually has a pretty nasty circulation on it. That's the most impressive one in the entire area. This one right here. While I continue to do some radar analysis, let me send it back over to Nikki and Rick for some more tips on how you can protect yourself in a tornado warning. Guys?
All right, Derek, thank you. And look, here are some tornado tips, as Derek just mentioned, what you should do. So go to a safe place immediately. Go to a windowless interior room on the lowest level of your house.
And of course, get away from windows, go to the center of the room and get under a piece of sturdy furniture, or maybe like a workbench or a heavy table or a desk. We know you hear these over and over again, but they are so important, especially during a time like this. As Derek has said, these systems, they come in so quick, and yet they can be so powerful. They do not need to be in long to make their mark, Nikki.
Yes, and I really liked the acronym you mentioned, DUCK. You know, when you think about that, you're like, wait, as you were mentioning that, I thought, you know what, this is all very useful to so many of us, especially those who are in the path of these storms that we've been following.
And a ton of photos on social media. We're seeing photos of what appear to be funnel clouds in Owings Mills, rotation in Sparks, Baltimore County as well. Some power outages where those storms are rolling through in northern Baltimore County, starting to pop up a little bit on the BGE website as well. Derek was just talking about that system in Montgomery County, seeing a ton of images circulate on social media from there as well. Right now, we're working to get permission to use some of those images. Maybe we can show them to you during this newscast. If you're seeing anything in your area and you're able to get some photos safely, of course, feel free to send them in. We're trying to cover all angles of this storm and hit all of the areas across our region.
Especially some of the images we're seeing there. And, you know, quite honestly, it just seemed like this suddenly happened. It had been, you know, a little cloudy much earlier, but then kind of all of a sudden, the 6 o'clock hour, things ramped up all across our region. I can't help but look at this great footage that we're showing right now. But at the same time, you know, as Derek has been keeping us updated, it's really important to take heed of these tornado tips, especially at this time when you just don't know at what very moment that it may hit close to home.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Derek Beasley has been doing a phenomenal job tracking these storm systems all day long, remains all over it tonight, keeping our viewers safe, Derek, which is most important here.
That's right, guys. Yeah, and again, I want to emphasize that even though we have that tornado warning for parts of Hartford as well as Baltimore County, that certainly warrants attention. But this storm here in Montgomery County has likely a significant tornado with it as it tracks near Poolsville and west of Dawsonville. There's likely, it's definitely being detected as doing damage out this way. I'll put the debris tracker on here so you can see that it did detect an area of debris being picked up by this particular storm, and I'll circle it for you. You see that little area of blue near Dawsonville. That is likely, that's definitely a tornado that's doing damage there. So given the fact they've issued a tornado warning that is confirmed tag there, that is why. Let's go back into Baltimore County really quickly. This tornado warning remains in effect here. The circulation still around Perry Hall. The rotation not strong as the one that is just southwest of or at least just Gaithersburg out towards Poolsville. This rotation, it's there. Again, north of Perry Hall, north of 147. This could be heading up towards Falston here shortly. So what I will do, and you can see the couplet a little bit better now. Again, I'll circle it for you so you can see it. It's about to cross over the Hartford County line, but there it is right there where you see the greens and the reds touching each other. That is that area of rotation that continues to move northeast at about 20 miles an hour. I'll go ahead and put a storm track on here so you can see where it's headed. Ocean is still about 20 miles an hour, so it's moving northeast at 20. So we'll take it all the way out through Hartford County into Cecil County. So if this thing holds together, and I don't see any reason why it would at this point, looks like getting into Joppatown by 7:45, so you got about another 20 minutes before this rotation heads your way. Abingdon just a little before 8 o'clock. Aberdeen at 8:17. Havre de Grace by 8:30 if it lasts that long. Port Deposit 8:37 if it continues on that track. And I think it has a really good chance of holding itself together because it is kind of behind this large area of rain that's been affecting the area that kind of stabilized the atmosphere, made it less favorable for storms. It's kind of on the back end of this thing, and there's really nothing south of it to interfere with that circulation. So we'll continue to watch it to kind of give you a little better idea of where the area of rotation is right now. And I'm going to pull up one of my other products here so I can see, so I can call out some specific areas where this thing may be affecting. So it looks like it is going to be over Perry Hall, so right along Highway 1, or Route 1. The rotation now extends from really Glen Arm all the way down towards the north sides of White Marsh. So Perry Hall Estates up towards Kingsville, Mount Vista, Jerusalem, getting up towards Glen Powder Falls State Park. Pleasant Hills is going to be tracking up that way. So if you live in those areas, get ready. The storm's going to be headed your way with that area of rotation. Also, like Bel Air North, Springdale area, Heritage Woods. Let's see, Pinecrest. So if I'm calling out your communities, even though it's going to take a little while for the system to get there, that rotation is headed up your way. But the immediate concern right now is for the Perry Hall area, where this area of rotation is concerned. Now let's go back out west to these storms. And you can clearly see that that southern storm, the one west of Gaithersburg, is the dominant storm right here. And you can kind of see all the little minus signs there. Those are actually lightning strikes. So there's a ton of lightning with this, I guess, compared to the other storms than the other ones just to the north. And that actually means a lot because that means that it's likely the strongest storm in the area. But we need to keep an eye on this one near Clarksburg that is heading due east, and it will likely be moving into western Howard County probably very soon. We're talking maybe by 8:15, that's going to be headed up there. And we also got this other tornadic storm, or at least it's rotating. It's not technically tornadic yet, but it's right along I-70 as it pushes eastward into far western Howard County and far southwestern portions of Carroll County. So around Mount Airy, if you live out in Mount Airy, keep an eye on this storm, especially on the very tail end of it. So it looks like if there's any rotation with this particular one, it's out near Newmarket, right along I-70, and it's going to be tracking east towards Mount Airy here very soon. And I am detecting some rotation with that. So Green Valley, Newmarket, right on I-70, headed towards Mount Airy. No tornado warning yet, but there's a possibility that one could be issued if this rotation does increase. So again, it's for that storm there, just to the west of Mount Airy. Just heads up for you. Other storms up in the Carroll County, keeping an eye on this one around Uniontown. Right now, the circulation on that one is that's actually a fairly impressive circulation based on what I'm seeing. So we need to keep an eye on this one as it makes its way, looks like just to the south and east of Taneytown near Uniontown and also east of Union Bridge. That's where the area of rotation with that one is, right along 84. And this is going to be getting up to near Tyrone as well as Frizzleburg as it moves through northern parts of Carroll County. But that's the other area of rotation that we're watching. Several of these storms are spinning, but the one that actually has a tornado with it is the one west of Gaithersburg, and we're going to continue to watch that one as it moves through Montgomery County to see if Howard County ends up getting affected by it. So let's go back to the Baltimore County storm. So we're going to be jumping around to all of these storms as long as we have these tornado warnings in effect. And again, the tornado warning remains in effect here for Baltimore County. This goes again until, I believe it expires at 7:45. Still looking at the possibility of a tornado there as of about 5 minutes ago, a potential for a tornado near Kingsville, moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. So the storm's not moving very quickly at all. So we'll be dealing with this here for a little while. But there it is right there. And we'll put another storm track on it, so I'll adjust the timing on it so it takes into account the 15-mile-an-hour storm motion. And for those of you north and east of Perry Hall, so the latest projections on this particular storm, Joppatown by 7:55, Bel Air's 8:11,